Hello, Drake Duncan here, and today I'll be reading to you Rebel Entrepreneur by Arnon Barnes. Chapter 1, The Way of the Rebel Entrepreneur. There are many kinds of entrepreneurs in this world. They all have different personalities, mindsets, and approaches. One thing I've come to learn and understand from coaching and training tens of thousands of people from all over the world is that everyone is unique. I've had the privilege to have coached people from everywhere, all walks of life. People from places like Brazil, South Africa, Poland, Italy, the Netherlands, Israel, Belgium, United Kingdom, Germany, and Singapore, to name a few. By far, the most obvious thing I've noticed in working with so many people with so many different backgrounds is this. There is no cookie-cutter system for achieving success. Having said that, it is true that there are certain commonalities successful and wealthy people share. I've discovered these by watching the rich and analyzing what they do and how they do it, how they really play the game. Let's take a step back and start with this basic understanding. Business and life are just games. And the game of business is all about seeing things differently than most people. I first realized this when I was a young kid. Back then, I remember seeing my dad buying and working on old beat-up properties, and my mom never understood it. She never really wanted to get too involved with what my dad was doing because all she could see was the beginning. What she saw in her head was my dad spending money on some shitty, rundown properties that weren't really worth much. But my dad saw things differently. He saw the finished product in his head. He saw the possibilities. He saw the opportunity. He knew if he invested his time and energy, he could turn a profit. He knew what other people saw as a waste of time was really a gold mine waiting to be cracked open. At age 11, I discovered my own gold mine. My uncle owned a toy store, and he would often sell me toys from his store at a discount. It wasn't long before I figured out I could sell the toys I'd gotten at a discount for a little bit higher price to my classmates and make some money. As a kid, this is how I got started playing the game of business. Now, many years later, I've come to understand there are many different ways to play the business game. The first way you can play the game of business is you can refuse. In fact, over 80% of the world's population refuses to play the business game. There are good people with good hearts and good intentions out there who simply refuse to play the game. If we're talking about the game of business specifically, there are people out there who simply say, look, business is not for me. I want to be an employee. I want the security. I want the consistent paychecks. At the end of the month, I want to know I'm for sure going to get X amount of money. So basically, this type of person makes a conscious refusal of getting involved in the business game. This type of person says, listen, business is not for me. I know who I am, and who I am doesn't want any part of that. There's one major flaw with this philosophy. Over 90% of all millionaires made their money by owning a business. There is another type of person who makes an unconscious refusal of playing the business game. This person's refusal looks more like this. I wake up, I go to school, I finish school, I get a job, I retire at some point. This is complete buy-in to the way of the system. This is doing what you're told to do and not questioning if there might be a better, faster, and more abundant way to make money and live the lifestyle you desire and deserve. Both of these types of people are flat out refusing to play the business game. My purpose here is not to say whether what these people are doing is good or bad, right or wrong. I'm simply saying refusal is one way people play the game. The second way to play the business game, and this is how a lot of people play it, is the way of the pretender. The pretender pretends to be in business. They pretend to be an entrepreneur. They pretend to be making millions. It is very easy to identify a pretender. Pretenders are normally very, very busy people. In fact, they are so busy being busy that they are too busy to make any money at all. That's how busy they are. They haven't got the time for money. That's the first way you can easily identify a pretender. Maybe you've met some people like this in your life. This type of person is someone you know and run into occasionally. And when you do, you ask, "Hey, how is your business doing?" You might know them to be in the pencil business or something. A wholesaler of pencils. It doesn't matter. This is just an example. So you ask them, "Hey, how is your business doing?" And they tell you, "Listen, I have been out of the pencil business for the last 3 months. That market is overcrowded. There's too much competition. It's like a Shark Tank. Everybody is eating each other alive. It just wasn't for me." So you're like, I see. So what are you doing now? And they tell you, "Oh, I'm in the luxury watch business now. This is the business. This is where I'm going to make my millions." 6 months later, you run into them again and ask, "Hey, how's the luxury watch business?" And it starts all over again. They tell you about how that market was overcrowded, and they tell you how they've switched to something else now, and the whole thing is just madness. They're always jumping from one thing to another, and they never stick with anything long enough to have any sort of success. It's the classic case of shiny object syndrome, and it just doesn't work. Before you think I'm coming down hard on this type of person, I've got to tell you this. I used to be a pretender. In fact, I used to be a master pretender, and I was always busy and I was always broke. The third way people play the business game is they play not to lose. They don't like to take any risks. They're afraid to make big moves. Everything they do has to be calculated, recalculated, then recalculated. They just play defense. Think about a soccer team. In soccer, you have 11 players on the field per team. It's 11 against 11. Now, let me ask you a question. Can you win the game if you have 11 goalkeepers? Absolutely not. There is no way. This is how a lot of people play the game of business. They play defense only, and they do this primarily because they lack confidence and they are fearful. Or even worse, they have completely lost their hunger and drive. Maybe they've been hurt in the past, or they are afraid of losing what they already have. Or maybe they're just afraid to take it up another level. They want to be in business, but they think to themselves, "Hey, I don't want to make too much noise. I don't want to market myself too much. I don't want to express myself in social media. I don't want to come out in full color." They have all sorts of excuses for why they're just playing defense. But if they were to go from a defensive mindset to playing a proper game, being aggressive in the marketplace by shouting who they are, what they do, and how they do it, they would move from playing a defensive game to playing an attacking game. And that's when business becomes exciting. Business is an offensive sport. When you play the business game offensively, it can take you from making small money to being rich and creating financial freedom for your family and your loved ones. This is exactly what I teach entrepreneurs how to do in my signature program for entrepreneurs, Business Rebel Masterclass. What difference can this make in someone's life switching from a defensive game to an attacking offensive game? Well, it can make all the difference. It can take someone from earning, say, $75,000 a year to earning $500,000 a year. As one of Europe's leading business and success coaches, I always ask my students, how are you playing the game? Are you just playing defense? Are you aggressive? Are you a striker? Are you playing a forward role? Are you attacking? The fourth way people play the business game is they play to win. They want to win the game. These entrepreneurs actually wake up in the morning and they say, "I want to win." This is all well and good, but here is the problem with this mindset. I've discovered, having been in business for many years, having taken all these different ways of playing the game myself. The problem with solely wanting to win is you will end up making a deal with someone you might not even like, someone you don't even trust or want to work with. And you make this deal solely because it's going to make you money. You do it because it brings you a financial benefit or some kind of benefit at the end of the rainbow. Because of this benefit you're expecting to gain, you become willing to compromise your values. You become willing to compromise your integrity. You become willing to compromise your sincerity. In some cases, you're even willing to compromise your honesty. If you've ever done a deal or gotten involved in a joint venture with someone and then lost sleep over it, wondering if the person you just got involved with will actually deliver on the promises and pay you your fair, agreed upon share, then you might be in the mindset of the person who just wants to win. Now, I'm not saying any of the stuff I've talked about in this chapter is good or bad, right or wrong. I'm telling you all of this because my intention is to make the invisible visible for you. I just want to create awareness. I want you to be aware that there are different types of people out there doing business, and you yourself may occupy any one of these types of people doing business at a given point in time. I know I have. I've been them all at one time or another. The key thing I want you to take away from all this is this. You need to be aware of how you're playing the game so you can change what needs to be changed. Keep what needs to stay the same, and grow into the fully balanced, honest, sincere, and ass-kicking entrepreneur I know you have the potential to be. You see, the 4 types of people I just talked about are all the status quo. But if you're reading this book, you're about to discover there is a 5th way to play the game that is totally transformative and can take you to places in life you may have never dreamed possible. It is the way of the rebel entrepreneur. Rebel actions to take. Identify how you are currently playing the game of entrepreneurship and business. Be honest. Write it down. Think about other entrepreneurs you know. How are they playing the game? What results are they getting? How do you need to adjust your game plan? Do you have one? What pitfalls can you avoid by being aware of your mindset and your approach to business? Rebel words of wisdom. Every human being is born equal, and then some become entrepreneurs.